You're listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn, where you'll find uplifting and practical advice for everyday living, creative inspiration for do-it-yourself projects, and recommendations for books and resources that will encourage you to embrace your life repurposed. I'm your host, Michelle Rayburn. Hey there, friends. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Life Repurposed. This week, I want to cover a topic that I haven't covered in a little while, and that is specifically focusing on creativity. Now, there are 5 different content areas that I try to cover on episodes of Life Repurposed, and those include our purpose. I talk about goals, relationships, spiritual and personal growth, and then one of the other areas is creativity. Now, one of the things we often think when we hear the word creativity is that it has something to do with being crafty. And while creativity and craftiness do go together, they are not synonymous. And so I want you to know that if you're not a crafty person, creativity is still for you. I've interviewed several upcoming guests who have talked about how they have creatively used what God is teaching them in a way that could bless others. And so I want to focus on that creativity, but you'll see as I talk through that this has something to do with craftiness for some people, but for other people, it's just simply using your talents and gifts in a creative and innovative way. So you might be a creative person in how you find solutions. You might be innovative in how you do something, and you can share that with others. This week, I want to focus on how we can creatively bless others with what God is doing in us. You know, sometimes when we're in our own struggles, we get really caught up in that, and we think about how we can grow in the middle of that. We think about our own needs, and sometimes we forget that someone else can also benefit from that. And part of our own spiritual growth process is ministering to other people. So in the middle of our discouragement, we can reach out to somebody else. Or in the middle of learning something new, we can bless somebody else with what God is doing in us. Too often, I get caught up that same way. And it's important for us to note that even the strongest people need encouragement. There are some times when you look at people, especially on social media, where what we see on the outside is not necessarily what's going on in their lives, or we see a certain amount of success and we assume that successful people don't need to be encouraged. And so I want us to be encouragement detectives where we're looking for where we can encourage. Sometimes it's not the person who seems down and depressed, but it might be somebody who has a lot going on in their life. It might be somebody who has not had time to connect with their friends lately, and so they're feeling really kind of out of sorts. There's so many different reasons for why someone might need encouragement. Not too long ago, I had a couple of weeks of really wrestling with whether or not the time that I pour into creating podcasts every week and writing books and hosting a Facebook community was really making a difference for anyone. There are some times where writers and speakers are just putting content out there and they don't really know, is it hitting the target? Is it making a difference? Is anyone finding something of value in here? I had this bone weary sense of it all just because I was physically tired, mentally tired. I've been just pouring every bit of energy I have into the content that I'm creating lately. And so I was asking God if I was on the right track or if I was pursuing something outside of his direction. And I think that's a legitimate question to ask. Like, we don't want to be wasting our time. There are times where we might go in a direction and God sends us in another way. But it's also important for us to know that sometimes we just need a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of feedback that says, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Or, yeah, someone noticed and saw your struggle. And that struggle that I was having made me more aware that there are many others out there who could use a few words of encouragement sometimes. So when we get off the hamster wheel that we're just running on all the time, and we pause for a few minutes, we look around and we realize there's other hamsters in the cage with us. We are not alone. We have other people and we need each other. So over the next few minutes, what I want to do is share some ways that we can creatively encourage someone else without having to be crafty. It's just about being thoughtful and being intentional. And then I'll leave you with a resource that I found that can be a double blessing because it'll bless you and it will also bless somebody else. Here are some creative ideas for ways you can bless others, and they're drawn from the ways that other people have encouraged me or things that I've observed in tips from other people. So just want to share these with you, and maybe there will be one that you can pull out and use in the coming weeks and encourage some other people. The first one is a smile package. In the midst of my tough weeks recently, I got a smile package in the mail from my friend Gina Stinson. I'm going to link to her in the show notes so you can find her. She is also a fan of repurposing, and she's a fellow writer. And she had put together a bubble mailer pack with some hand lettered prints, some fun and cheerful stickers. There was a keychain, there was a handwritten note. It was just fun and colorful and just so cool to just get this package in the mail that I didn't expect. And the stickers that were in the package were something designed by her daughter, Savannah, who has a business called Savannah Scribbles. I will link to that in the show notes too in the resources because you probably want to check that out and get some of the fun things that Savannah has. But it was so cool to get this little unexpected package and the note that Gina wrote. And I want you to think about it because what are some things that you could put into a smile package to send out to someone else? Maybe you have some stickers on hand or bookmarks or some little cheerful note cards and things that you might have. And you could purchase some things that you can have all ready to go that could be packaged up and sent in an envelope. And so it's not like you have to spend money on mailing a box, but it's amazing how a few stickers and some colorful notes that come in the mail can be something that can make somebody's day. So I will put a picture of my smile package from Gina in the show notes too, so that you can see that photo. And you'll see that it brought a smile to my face, and I'm sure it will to yours when you see what was in that package. Another idea is scripture cards. Just a few episodes ago, in episode 85, Rosie Williams talked about how she writes out a verse that means something to her, and then she creates a second copy to take with her in her purse. So this is something that she does in her daily time with the Lord, and she just trusts that God's going to prompt her while she's out and about with who she should give this extra card to. Now, this doesn't have to be something fancy. It can be if you're crafty. That's totally up to your level of craftiness. But it can be just a handwritten card, or you could buy colorful index cards. And so you just write in a Sharpie or something on a colorful index card. But here's where the double blessing comes in. When we meditate on scripture, we grow spiritually. Something changes in us. And then by creating something we can share with someone else, we also move beyond our circle. So we apply that blessing to someone else and we encourage them. And so if you can do that, if you can take a scripture that God has been speaking to you on and you just write it out and you're ready to hand it to someone else, that's a way of encouraging them with what you've grown in. The other thing is there are some things that are ready-made. So if you don't even know where to begin with finding scriptures, there are some scripture cards that can be colored. And so I'm going to link in the show notes in the resources section. I'll talk about it when we get to the end of this episode when I'm talking about resources. But there are some scripture cards that are black and white. You can just color them in and then you can hand them out. And the act of sitting and coloring them in is something that provides you some opportunity to meditate on whatever is on that card. And then you can take it with you or you can mail it to somebody else. So scripture cards are a great way of encouraging someone. Another creative way that you could bless somebody else is to create a purposeful playlist. In Spotify or YouTube or any of your favorite music listening platforms, you can create a playlist of songs. And so it's just taking a list and putting them together. It groups them into a list. And one way to encourage someone else is to send that playlist, just a link to your friends with a simple note about how you're thinking of them and how you wanted to send these songs to encourage them. So it's your way of saying something ministered to you and you want to pass that forward. You could create several lists. You can have them for different occasions or different reasons. So you could have one for celebrating. So you could have like 5 songs on a list for how you would send that out if somebody is celebrating something big in their life. Or if somebody's getting married, you could send out some that have to do with relationships and love. You could have one for encouragement. You could have one for God's power. There's so many different things you can do with the playlist, and keeping it fairly short so somebody doesn't have a ton of songs to listen through. But it just allows you to say, hey, these things encourage me and I want to share them with you. And so it's a way that you can share it personally with somebody. You could also share it on social media, but really I'm focusing on how we can personally encourage somebody else. So this would be, I'm going to email it or I'm going to text it or message it to somebody. Another way that we can encourage others is through virtual greetings. One fun way is to have some ready made images that can be sent out to people. And so it's so much better than like clicking a like button. If you are on social media and you're clicking a like button, it's just not that meaningful. I mean, sure, you gave somebody an extra like on their post, but let's say somebody posts about a birthday or an anniversary or an exciting event. And then, I just tend to be scrolling by and I click like. But what if I had some images that were created and instead of just liking or commenting, I also included a little photographic kind of image with my comment. Now it stands out like I was more intentional about that. I've created 4 free ones that you can get, and I will link to those in the show notes, but you'll find them at liferepurposedbook.com. There's for congratulations and anniversary, and I'm thinking of you and birthday. And you can just download those 4 images and have them on your computer. And then they're ready to go if you're going to comment on somebody's post or if you want to send a text or an email. You could also use a program like Bitmoji or the avatar feature on your social media messenger. And you can have that little avatar of yourself, like a cartoon image, and then you can add that to greetings too. It just adds a little extra with the virtual greetings instead of just scrolling on by and really not making a big deal of something. Another way that you can personalize something that will bless someone else is to use a voice message. One of the ways that several of my friends have sent greetings to me is by creating like a 1-minute voice message and sending it by text or social media messenger. This allows me to hear their voice in their words of encouragement, or sometimes it's a prayer, or it's a, hey, thinking of you today as you're going in for this test at the doctor. Whatever it's been super encouraging for me to get that. I'm not one who does that very often, and so it's something that I need to be more intentional about is sending somebody that personal greeting. It's so easy to do, and with almost everybody having a smart device now, you can send that out, and then they could just play it and listen to you speaking to them. With each of these ideas that I've shared today, it's really helpful to have them ready to go. So I found that I'm the most intentional when I have something ready. So if I have a basket of note cards sitting out, like on my table or my desk, I will be way more likely to grab and write a card to somebody. Now, I don't keep all of my cards sitting out, but a couple of encouraging notes that you just think, oh, today I want to send one out to somebody. A handwritten note. I haven't even mentioned that other than in the smile package, but a handwritten note is so great to get from somebody in the mail. It's not something we do that often anymore. Being intentional with the smile packet. If you have them ready to go and they're just ready for you to personalize the note and then seal it and put the postage on it, then you're going to be more intentional about doing that. Or having playlists already saved and just having the links where you can quick grab them and say, hey, I wanted to share this with you today. I thought about you. I encourage you to be on the lookout for people who you can encourage. Don't assume that they will make it obvious that they need your encouraging words or that they need a blessing. Some who appear the strongest from afar could really use kind words. They might be, you just don't know. The best thing to do is to ask the Lord in the morning sometimes, is just to say, who are you going to put on my mind today? I want you to bring someone to mind that I should reach out to, because God's going to put that person on your mind. And then when you do that and you reach out and you say, I was just thinking about you today and I wanted you to know, it's amazing how often they will say, I really needed that. You had no way of knowing how much I needed that. So can you imagine what our world would be like if people felt noticed and valued because we were intentional with them? We would have a world full of people who felt strong emotionally because they knew they were loved, that it's that love of Jesus that we're sharing in the way we encourage others. So I invite you to check out any of these options as a possibility for a way you can be more intentional about blessing others. Stay tuned for a couple of resources as we wrap up. I was recently shopping at the Christian bookstore, and it actually didn't have very many books in the bookstore. There were a lot of gifts, and I didn't know what to do with this gift card that I had. I was trying to figure out, like, what could I do that would be fun and something that is useful. And I saw these little scripture cards that can be colored and shared. And they came in this really cool little cardboard box that's all pretty and it has a lid. It can stand on your desk, and then you just pull out one of these black and white cards and you can color it. And I thought, well, this would be really cool for during my time with God, where sometimes I like to finish with some coloring or something creative like that. It slows me down. It makes me think a little bit. I can listen to a song or something like that while I'm coloring. These are meant to then be shared. So you color and share. There's so many different designs. I'm going to share the two that I purchased, but there's others too. So I got Colorful Blessings. They're cards to color and share. And then I also got Psalms in color, and they're cards to color and share. So I will link to those in the show notes, but just a little box, like 40 some cards that when they're gone, I can replace them with another box of cards that I can color and share with somebody else. So I encourage you to look for something like that, where it's just ready to go. Not everyone loves to color, so I understand if you don't, but at least you don't have to draw the design. It's all made for you. And so it's a way of personalizing it and then also sending it out in a way that encourages. Or you can prop it up for yourself if you need to see that verse that day. The other resource that I mentioned earlier that I want to invite you to check out is Savannah Scribbles. Savannah started her business as a teenager. I think she was 16 or so when she started it. And now she's like launching into college. And she has all this fun stuff in her Etsy store. And so she has like supplies to create your own smile packets, but then also has custom signs and shirts and graphics and all kinds of things that are fun and colorful and uplifting. So I will link to Savannah Scribbles. She has a Facebook page where you can connect with her. She does custom orders, all kinds of stuff. So really a cool way of bringing a smile to someone else's face and showing someone that they matter with just something as simple as some stickers and something with a positive message. So those are just some ways of getting started on how you could bless somebody else in the middle of perhaps a dark moment for them, or maybe just an everyday moment where they need to have a smile, need to know that somebody cares. So as we go about our week, let's be creative in the way we reach out. Let's look for ways that we can bless people, and let's just share the love of Jesus in any way we can. Make this world a better and different place, and help other people discover what it means to have life repurposed. If you're looking for a way to connect with other people, to share some words of encouragement, to feel seen and noticed, I encourage you to join our Facebook community. You just go on Facebook and search for Life Repurposed Community. There we have some posts each week, Monday Mingle, where you can just get to know people. There's some discussion questions throughout the week. There's always something that's related to one of the podcast episodes. Even if you haven't had a chance to listen that week, you can still participate in the discussion. This is a place to connect with other people who want to learn how to live life in a repurposed way, in looking at what God is doing in your own struggles and turning them into something that brings Him glory. So I invite you to come to that community as well. There are lots of things I can share with you this week, but I want to keep our time short. And next week, I will be back with another guest interview, and I'm really looking forward to this guest. So please come back and listen in to Life Repurposed again next week. You've been listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn. Check out tips, resources, and inspiration at michellerayburn.com. I'd love it if you would subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or Spotify. I'd also love it if you would like, review, and share the information about this podcast with your friends. Thank you so much for listening.